So the second half of our conversation, we've talked about how accessible SUP, the sport, is. But what I want to look at a little deeper is how accessible to individuals in Maryland, particularly the DC Baltimore corridor, how blessed we are to have varying types of water. We have the ocean a few hours away. We have the bay, which stretches the entire state and can give us a variety of conditions. We have some great flat water tidal rivers such as the Gunpowder and Dundee Creek or Middle River. We have nice moving water like the Gunpowder and Upper Potomac. We have great lakes and quarries in the northern counties for another good flat cold water experience. So a lot of different water within a 30-minute to an hour drive of Baltimore, D.C., which is fantastic. And again, I'll say we are blessed to have this kind of environment to make it accessible. And Hal mentioned earlier that we had that, 80% of people are within 50 miles of water, and here we are, a fair portion of our state is within 5 miles of water, anywhere you look. So the beautiful thing there is that because of all these different types of water, it starts to fill all these different specialized markets, these niche markets for SUP. Things like racing, the fitness and yoga crowd, the folks who want to make it a family activity, take their kids, take their dogs and exotic birds out for for a trip. Josh likes to go turtle hunting.
It's a big niche.
It's a huge niche.
Big, it's coming up. Big.
You can go surfing. You can do whitewater, both attaining and descending. So you can do a lot of different things, and so I wanted to make this more of a free-form conversation to talk about our experiences and other experiences that we've heard from other individuals about what they've witnessed and attempted in Maryland. So I'll start very simply. A few days ago, Shauna, Mikey, Josh, and I went down the Upper Gunpowder from Maysmore Road put-in down to the Moncton Road takeout. Not a lot of terribly big whitewater. Class 1, light Class 2, but still moving. Totally different environment. A lot more tree jumping
That was hilarious.
than anything else, but still a totally different environment, and we're on a paddleboard. Very different than being on a beach or on a flatwater creek or on a pond. So, and again, that was within 30 minutes of Baltimore. And it was great. We had fun. At least I did. Did you guys have fun?
Had a ton of fun. When are we doing it next?
Anytime.
Tomorrow.
As soon as possible.
Right now.
Kaylee, when are we doing something? Because we didn't go on that.
You did.
We're gonna go on our own and we're not gonna
Yeah,
do it.
definitely. And we're not going to tell you about it.
Until later.
It'll be windsurfing
After.
when we go.
You get the picture.
It'll be awesome, by the way.
So we had that great experience,
Right.
but let's take it in another direction. Kaylee and Hal had this massive brainstorming session a few years ago and came up with the SUP Dog program, which attacks a totally different market of this, bringing your best furry friend along for the ride. So why don't you guys actually start that conversation, since I don't get to do any of that, and these guys don't get to do any of that. You're always complaining about how we do fun stuff without you.
We are complaining.
So why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so SUP Dog certainly wasn't our invention. There's no question that people are putting dogs on SUPs way before we even thought of it. But it was an obvious thing to do, because if you have a dog or love your dog or love someone else's dog, then you feel guilty about leaving them home all the time. And so that's my dog right there. It's actually my daughter's dog, and she gets left home a lot. So when we started the SUP program 3 or 4 years ago, it was my daughter's idea to, can't we bring Cookie along? And so since I almost invariably say yes to anything my daughter asks, So we tried that, and I don't know that Cookie was like the best candidate. What do you think, Cookie? No, so, but strangely enough, she did really well. She was cooler and calmer than we thought she would be, and obviously she's a little Chihuahua. And maybe she had an advantage because she had done some kayaking very successfully with us. Doesn't paddle that well, but pretty good,
Right along.
on board, right? But really, it was just something that seemed to make sense. It was like an obvious, why wouldn't we try to do this? So we did try to do that, and
It's been really great. Because I know I started paddleboarding before I knew it was a thing on an old windsurfing board and a canoe paddle, and we would take our Jack Russell Terrier out on that. And he loved it. He would stand right on the nose. He was a small dog. But when we started in the class, I've seen 100-pound labs to little Chihuahuas, and even if they're a little nervous at first, I think the way we run the program, they have seen like immense success rates.
How on earth did you get a Jack Russell Terrier to stand on a windsurfer
I
for
have
an extended
pictures.
period of time?
Wow.
I mean, it was an old windsurf bolt. It's very heavy.
I'm not worried about the
Very
board.
long.
How'd you get a Jack Russell Terrier to calm down, period?
I have pictures. I will show you. But
Take him
I
out of
mean,
his element, put him on the water. No idea what to do.
But me and my brother started doing that before it was a thing. It just seemed natural. You know, our dog liked the water. We wanted to get him out there. We wanted to take him with us. And he just really took to it. I think there's just, like you said, it's such a thing with people who love their dogs. They want to bring them along. They want to find a sport the dogs can do with them. Even if they're not athletic dogs. Because we have dogs that want to just sleep on the boards. So, again, with that versatility.
It's hard to go snowboarding with your dog.
well, I know that in the program that Kaylee runs, we have seen really big dogs, really small dogs, everything in between, and Kaylee and her team have figured out how to first get dogs to be sociable in a relaxed and calm way, which is pretty cool to watch, and then get the instruction across to the actual paddlers, and then once we're actually in the water, help the paddlers help their respective dogs get comfortable on a board before they're even paddling the board. So there's a real process to what you have built, and it's obviously evolved, but it's a really cool evolution because ultimately within 2 hours you see success across the board. Dogs are happy, dog partners are happy. I hate to say
Dog
owners.
lovers.
The
Yeah,
humans.
the dog lovers. The humans are happy, and then there's that connection that happens between the human and the dog, and then there's the connection that happens between all the humans and all the dogs, and so there's a lot going on in only a 2-hour amount of time, and it took some real effort to figure out how to build that program. But that program exists in lots of different places, and I'm sure there's lots of things that we could learn and utilize and trade and share. But it's just one of many aspects of, I think, what you're talking about, Tyler, which is there's a whole bunch of different worlds of people, whether it's dog-loving people, cat-loving people, or whatever the group is. And SUP really lends itself well to so many different kinds of people. Anyway, that's what we've seen with the whole dog thing, the SUP dog thing. It's been awesome.
I'm
Had
glad-
one runner come out and was like, "Hey, can I take my rabbit out?" I'm like, "I don't see why not. We don't have a rabbit life jacket once that market
Rabbit.
shows up." But they want to take their rabbit out. I'm like, "Yeah, if you can get your rabbit on board, go for it."
Really weird.
Well, start
People love
cutting
their
up some
rabbits
life
like
jackets, Mikey, and get to work. Make sure.
Arts and crafts time.
Hal, I'm glad you brought up the topic that in 2 hours, again, we're talking about accessibility and ease of entry into a sport, that you can learn how to paddleboard effectively with another creature who doesn't speak English
Maybe.
and doesn't operate the same way you do, and still be successful on a board in just a couple of hours, which again lends itself to the simplicity of the sport, but still getting so much joy out of being on the water with your best friend, whether they're human or dog or both. And I think that's obviously what we all want to do is be out there with whoever we consider our best friend. But moving away from that, so that's more of a flat water, very, very social experience. But what about whitewater. Shauna teaches some whitewater skills on the Potomac. And you teach
So-
attaining.
Well, no, so okay, it's a lot easier on the Potomac. The river that we were on yesterday, or when did we go? 2 days ago. Is a lot smaller. So on the Potomac, there are, I think what I said to you is that there are large islands, large rock islands, so you can eddy hop. And I teach just, I don't want to present myself as some amazing whitewater paddleboarder, because I'm not. There are people doing incredible things down there. But, like I said, one of the most satisfying parts about teaching for me is getting people to feel comfortable. So I can take a beginner and get them pretty comfortable getting into some moving water. And it's really satisfying. I think this has come up a couple times, actually more than a couple times in this conversation, but the satisfaction of seeing somebody be able to do something that they did not think that they were going to be able to do. And the satisfaction of having sort of coached them through that experience. And so, like, I think that getting people on moving water, and actually that moving water could be whitewater, it could be chop, it could be wind, getting them to get into something that it looks a little dicey and coaching them through this sort of experience, getting them over that sort of fear hump so that they're able to function. But what's amazing is that there's some, like you said, some class 1, class 2 rapids that we went over, and the most challenging part was the strainers, were the trees. But like it was so I think you mentioned earlier, Josh, just this feeling of being in nature is it's so incredible. So the river that we went down 2 days ago, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like it smelled great.
It does.
It did.
It smelled amazing.
There's something dead in, that drop in. I smelled something gross.
No, that
once
was
we
not
got-
what I was talking about, Mikey. That was not it.
It might have been those construction workers.
No.
Once we
So
got on the
mountain-
water, yeah.
Okay, so the mountain
Totally
laurel
agree.
was blooming, the wild roses were blooming,
The honeysuckle
the
was
honeysuckle
blooming.
was blooming. We heard woodpeckers, we heard wood thrushes. It was gorgeous.
Kingfishers, herons,
Beautiful. Yeah.
turtles.
And so,
Me and Hal are invited on this beautiful experience.
Yeah, no,
We
it
learned
sounds
fantastic for you guys.
I don't know what you're getting so
We
excited
put you
about.
in
It sounds
unsafe
pretty
conditions.
boring.
was. Whereas and so that's a really gentle, beautiful, immersive, natural experience. Whereas on the Potomac, it's really majestic. So one of the things
So it's a grander.
it's a
kind of
much
scale.
grander experience. The water's bigger. There's bald eagles flying around. There's giant flocks of turkey vultures. It's really
But they're only.
they're awesome.
I'm not a
They're
fan.
awesome.
But they're only
They have a
50
hole in
miles
their
apart.
Yeah, but they're only right. So we actually in Baltimore it's kind of amazing because a half hour in one direction, 45 minutes, hour depending on traffic, in the other direction. We have these two rivers, and actually I'd never paddled the Gunpowder. I'd never paddled the Upper Gunpowder, so that was really new on me. And so I'm pretty eager to discover all sorts of stuff.
More.
Yeah, and I know it's out there. It's just, I keep having these experiences with people in Baltimore City. I keep meeting up with people, and I say, okay, I have Sunday free. I'm taking you out. And they go, where? Where are we going? On the Inner Harbor? I'm not going to do the Inner Harbor. I'm like, we live so close to so much incredible water, and I'm going to take you out. And they go out, and they're like, this is beautiful. It's like being on vacation. I'm 25 minutes from my house. Thank you so much. We go out, the sun is setting, it's beautiful. We're having this amazing experience floating in the water. It's incredible.
So I don't want to put the Inner Harbor down too hard,
Well,
but there is something very nice about seeing the city from that perspective.
totally
And the
agree.
same thing is true on the Potomac paddling around DC.
Absolutely.
Seeing monuments from the water gives you a totally different view. The water may not be as clean, but it's another experience that somebody can take away, and anyone can walk the harbor.
Right.
And anyone should be able to paddleboard the harbor. They just gotta
I
get out
have,
and do it.
I have paddleboarded the harbor.
Right. And Mike, I think you were about to say something. I'm sorry.
I'm always surprised at how close we are to so many great things, like Sean was pointing out, and people have no idea. These things are right in our backyard, and people, at the park that I work at, people will come down and they're like, oh, you know what? I lived right around the corner for like 20 years. I never knew this was here. I'm like, you really got to get out of your house.
Got really twangy there at the end. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always surprised.
So I'm sorry, say that last part again. You gotta get out of your house.
You got to get out of your house and explore what's in your own backyard. You know, you might not have ever seen it before, but you might have heard a story, or you could just go out and ask your friend, like, hey, what did you do last weekend? What did you do on Wednesday? Oh, I went something with 4 people and didn't invite Kaylee or Hal. But I totally want to go again, and I know who I'm going to invite next time once I clear all these trees that we have to hop over. Or under, sometimes. But yeah, it's remarkable how many people don't know that something is right next to them for their entire life.
Anything else? True. All true.
Yeah, it's all true.
One of the things that, again, the yoga instructor, SUP yoga instructor Mary Kay, mentioned to me before this conversation was she actually came from Southern California. And of course, everything cool starts in California. So she'd been doing it for years already. You know, when SUP in Maryland was in its infancy, they were entering their heyday. But paddling on the bay, out there, the San Francisco Bay, conditions varied only based on the wind. It was pretty much always the same. Whereas what we're talking about here in Maryland, and even Maryland's Chesapeake Bay, conditions vary not just based on wind, but based on where you are on the bay, how high or how low, whether you're in a freshwater section or a brackish or more saltwater, the further south you get into Virginia. But because of those varying conditions and all its tributaries, being one of the largest estuaries in the world, also lends itself for severe and steep skill development of all kinds, which again leaves me feeling very fortunate that I can develop a wide variety of skills and be very comfortable in a wide variety of water and conditions on almost any board at that, and all around her an inflatable, a surfboard or a trick board, and feel good because I have to be able to do that. And not just because I have to, but because I want to. I want to explore. And Josh, you like doing tricks. You paddled a couple different places. I hope you paddled in Florida.
Yeah, just it's nice to be able to check out like the upper gunpowder when we went on there. That's totally new. I mean, you get to go down where you have trees falling down in front of you, and instead of paddling around them, you can try and run and jump over them and see if you land on your board. I mean, there's lots of cool things you can mix up. Just like when you're at Gunpowder Park, you could go on flat water, you can go on the marsh, or you could have a day where it's blowing 15, 20 knots, and you got massive little waves you can jump on and ride. So being able to go through all the different terrains or different climates or different elements, whatever it has to come at you, it's pretty cool to have that diversity and be able to get out there and test out a whole bunch of different skills. So.
Good. So that's our kind of our whitewater style, but let's look more again at flat water. The fitness and yoga aspect, they are making boards with exercise bands already attached. Or interchangeable, which is pretty awesome. They're making yoga specific boards. They're shaping them and cutting them for high volume, high stability. Different decking to increase traction. And just really trying to shape yoga specific boards. Our instructor, again Mary Kay, she has her line of boards that she prefers for her yoga students. But that's not to say she hasn't tried yoga on other boards. She's tried it on a bunch of boards. She just happens to have one that she likes for herself and what her students seem successful on. But there are a lot of other companies out there really trying to push that aspect of it because it's something that's hot right now, not just in SUP, but in the world. People want to be fit. not just because you look good, but because we're fighting an obesity epidemic and people need to be fit. So the workout that we're getting, not just from paddling, but the additional engagement that we can get from a paddle board is becoming a huge industry in itself. So how I think you had some experience with some yoga at Ultimate Watersports, and where have you seen that going?
It's a good question. When we started off just a year ago, well, a year and a half ago, with programs on boards in flat water, the attraction to the yoga crowd and the yoga aware clients was immediate. It was not hard to find people who wanted to do that. And now it's about a year and a half later, and it's much broader, of course, than just the folks who are familiar with yoga. There's plenty of people who are not that familiar with yoga, but who are attracted to try this because it's kind of cool, it's different, it seems like it would be fun. And in that year and a half time, obviously the number of people who are actively engaged in yoga and all the possible forms of yoga is got to be in the millions. So while yoga is booming, yoga on paddle boards and just fitness in general, or fitness programs on paddle boards, is also booming. And one drives the other, clearly. So from a perspective of just general awareness to the active engagement, it's not slowing down. It's going to be with us for a long time. And whether or not yoga on paddle boards is the key, I'm not sure. I think more of what you're talking about, simply taking advantage of the fact that paddling aboard is a great workout, and it's as great a workout as you want it to be. If I want to get a killer workout on a paddleboard, I know how to do that. If I just want to get a casual, everyday, light workout, I can do that too. And so it's just one of the many benefits of learning to get on a stand-up paddleboard. Is you can learn enough about it to incorporate that into your fitness regimen. So if you're a hardcore fitness guru, you can use a paddleboard for that. And if you're someone who just wants to have a different way outside the gym or outside of your other workout venues, getting on the water is a really nice way. I mean, the bottom line for me is whether you're a nature-loving person or a dog-loving person or a fitness-loving person, all of those people can get on board and improve their general health, whether it's physical, spiritual, even emotional. The benefits are consistent across the board. So,
Two things. One, the reason I like paddleboarding so much as an exercise science degree holder is the overall total body workout that everybody's looking for, hitting all points at once. But the second thing that I like as an individual who's been injured, I have a lot of scar tissue in my left shoulder, under my shoulder blade, but with paddleboarding as opposed to kayaking, I don't feel any pain. Whereas with kayaking, after 20 minutes of that, I start feeling a lot of tension. No matter how correct I'm doing it, I feel that. But with paddleboarding, I can augment my stance a lot more readily than I can in a kayak and get a lot of relief or just release that tension in my shoulder. And Shauna had a shoulder issue.
I did, which you diagnosed.
And then your trainer, not me,
Yeah.
helped to
I had
alleviate.
Well, I had a shoulder issue that was, I hate to admit this, exacerbated by
Kayaking.
by stand-up paddleboarding without stretching. So I got a fair amount of muscle mass in my shoulder, and I didn't stretch out, and so I got tighter and tighter and tighter until I was drinking my morning coffee like this, which was hilarious. I'm sure you've seen me do that. Or maybe not, but I'll have to
Really, she was
demonstrate
just
you
flexing.
Yeah, right. It's like, and so it was getting harder and harder for me to do, but and so you actually got me started on a path where I'm doing a lot more stretching, and so I'm opening up, and I incorporate that now into a lot of my paddling classes. Actually, is stretching, warming up, but even doing very SUP specific stretching with the SUP paddles. So that works really well. The other thing that though that really what you were talking about being injured, I tore my ACL last year skiing. That's why I snowboard on a regular basis. And I was able to, I mean, I did believe me, I followed my doctor's direction that I didn't return to sport before I was supposed to. But even people with orthopedic injuries, and I know that you have lots of us have knee issues and stuff, because stand-up paddleboard starts basically from your ankles, and the twist, the rotation, the torso and body rotation is through all of your joints, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your spine, your shoulders, and your neck. You can translate that. No single joint takes all of the pressure. So it's something that I really talk about when people come to classes and they say, well, I've had some knee problems, or, classic rotator cuff issues, just the strain that people are under from sitting in a desk chair and working at a computer all day, which is terrible. And stand-up paddleboard really does. First of all, accessibility allows people with some joint issues from whatever to get into it safely in a situation where they're not going to re-injure or exacerbate an injury, because they can protect it by using other parts of the body. But it also gives a really awesome opportunity to loosen and strengthen the parts of your body that you don't necessarily hit.
I think you told me on Monday about how you changed a little bit in your paddle style and started feeling a workout in totally different muscle groups.
Totally different places.
Entirely new places than she had before. And I'm glad you talked about sitting at a desk all day again, because I could talk about this forever, is the tightening hip flexors of people sitting at a desk all day, and then they want to get out on the water and then they go kayaking and they sit in the kayak all day. You don't do that on a paddleboard. You open everything up.
The other thing, and I say this to students all the time, is that I'm not a paddleboard purist at all. So if people feel comfortable on their knees, that's awesome. We teach a stroke that you're sitting with your feet stretched out. Actually, it's a really awesome stretch for your legs. You're sitting on your paddleboard. You can even, as we all know, paddle your paddleboard on your stomach. So there's a lot of ways to be moving on the paddleboard, getting exercise in the paddleboard, getting through various conditions. People paddle on you paddle on your stomach if you're going through wind. It's an awesome way to punch through kind of adverse conditions. So there's just a ton of ways, and we keep coming around to this idea of accessibility. And I just read this article recently, I think it was in Men's Health or something, and it was like how to prepare for paddleboard season. It was these really intense workouts. And I thought, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not sure I can do those. But I do work out those muscles on my board. But I don't need to be ultra strong.
Jacked.
Well, I've read men's fitness articles back when I was like hitting the gym every other day, and I was like, oh yeah, these are totally great. But men's fitness is really like, you're gonna be jacked, you're gonna be ready by the time paddleboard season comes around. I guarantee it. Like, it's awesome. I get really excited about it. So, I'm like, let's do it, and then I do it once, and I'm like, never again. So if you're talking about fitness, and a lot of fitness articles that you read, they give you these crazy workouts to get ready for something. And of course, you don't need to be the most physically fit individual to get out and do it, even though that's what the workout is designed to prepare you for. I mean, of course, if you overtrain for something, you're going to be ready for it when the time actually comes.
So, I'm glad you say that, Mikey, because the answer to that, we're all not the same body type. We are all not jacked like those men's health and men's fitness guys. It really comes down to board design, actually. There are a variety of board designs to accommodate body types, heights, weights, ability levels, from small kid boards all the way up to super high volume all-arounders for learning, to these really slim and trim, fast race boards, again, based around your ability level. So it's a sport that you can pick and choose both your direction, but also how serious you want to be. Do I want to be this wreck all-around paddler and have this board that can handle me or a friend or whoever wants to come out? Or do I want to be this trim racer on this little board? Or do I want to have boards for my kids? you can get all these kind of things. And so Josh had some great insight about board skills in general, and I'd like to close with that.
Yeah, so it's clear that there's a large amount of diversity when it comes to paddleboard and the amount of things that you can do, and whether it's physical or mental or emotional or social, it seems that it's a good foundation starting point that you can take it any which direction. It's a good path where when you're looking down you can see all the different roads you can travel and all the good experiences you could have and sometimes the bad experiences. But it overall, it's just that foundation point where it can be added to, and that's just a neat thing to have when you're looking at a sport that you can go out and just have a good time. And it's very accessible because we're in the location, and it's coming up popular. And if you haven't seen it or haven't got out there, it's bound to path or cross your path, and it's up to you to figure out which direction you're going to go with it. So.
It is up to everybody.
Yeah, it's up to everybody. But there's lots of different paths, and there's one out there for everybody if they want to look at it through paddleboard's lens.
So I think one last thing, just if you guys could say one sentence to the fence sitters out there who haven't decided to get out and try it, but have seen it and want to become part of this community that is ever expanding. What?
So
like that.
I think that the most clear and concise thing I can say is there's room on the water for everybody, and this is a great way to get out to places you've never seen.
I would say, get out, do it, try something new. It's fun, it's easy, it's relaxing, and your soul will thank you for it.
Get out there and check out nature. Get away from the rat race. Get away from being behind a desk or anything, and just see which part of the sport is best for you, because there's lots of different ways out there.
I would say bring a friend, because it is so much better when you can do it with somebody that you love.
My message is there's just no reason not to get on a stand-up paddleboard. I haven't heard any good excuse yet.
And back to Kaylee, go.
I would say just unplug, bring your friend, bring your dog, get out on the water. I mean, there's something for everybody, whatever you're looking for.